Hi. Sorry, I had to go offline something.
Good afternoon, everyone. We will wait for a minute or so before we start this session. Idea is to have the attendees joining in, so please stay tuned to kickstart the session for a while. Okay, here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon again, and welcome to the 6th edition of NASSCOM SME Pivot Series session. This program is designed to help NASSCOM SME members kickstart new initiatives in their respective organizations in different areas to fuel their growth. Today's topic is building a successful hybrid operating model in SMEs, the challenges and the approaches. We have seen that a large number of employers are currently seeking to bring back their employees to their offices by deploying a hybrid work model. While some workers welcome the idea of going back to office, others are more ambivalent about the prospect. Forcing the employees into office without a concrete plan can harm the organization massively and may affect the business continuity. So in this session, we are going to discuss how SME companies, particularly in the tech sector, can implement a new human-centric model for the hybrid work by designing the work around employee-driven flexibility, culture of connectedness, and culture of caring in the organization, which puts employee well-being at the center. I believe this is going to be a very interesting topic for everyone who are present today. And without wasting any time further, I would like to introduce the host of the session, Mr. Maulik Bhansali. He is the CEO and founder of Netweb software based out of Vadodara. He is an esteemed member of NASSCOM SME Council and has been part of various NASSCOM initiatives for last decade. So now I would like to welcome Mr. Maulik Bhansali to kickstart this discussion. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon and good morning as well, because I have friends joining from the US as I speak here today. So thank you for context setting, Sarah, and I welcome all my friends and colleagues from the industry to discuss and understand various aspects, views, opinions, best practices, next practices in terms of how we handle this unique situation that we are all going through. Of course, everyone possibly has their own challenges, but yet we have our inputs and experience as well to share and to learn from each other. And objective is to kind of, come up with a good understanding of or ideas in terms of how do we handle such situation that we have been facing today, which is so unique to all of us. And I'm sure everyone possibly by now would have figured out one or the other way to handle this, but yet it made good sense for us at NASSCOM, especially for the small medium businesses, to come together and talk about it, discuss this, and see how we can share our experiences and our views for the benefit of our small medium business members. So thank you for joining us today. I'm joined by my good friends and industry leaders, Kumar. Kumar is currently in the US. He's been traveling, but so nice of you, Kumar, to join this morning. It's like 3:30 a.m. at your end, if I'm not wrong. So thank you so much for joining in. Tejinder, great seeing you again, and thanks for accepting this invitation to coming and joining as a panel expert to talk about your views and experience on this subject. I'm sure it will be very enriching with your background and with your initiatives that you've been leading yourself at various forums. Jayashree, great seeing you and meeting you. You're champion for various initiatives, including diversity and inclusion, including at your business. And I'm sure you have a lot to share in terms of how to harness the best of this initiative called diversity and inclusion, and how we can possibly, take advantage of such great initiative, and which can possibly also help for better, management of such needs, for example, for hybrid model and so on. So thank you, Jayashree, for joining with us today. You may want to kind of briefly introduce yourself, though I have spoken a little about you. But Kumar, to start with you, you may want to just spare a few minutes to talk about yourself, and then my friend Tejinder, and then you, Jayashree, as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Maulik. This is Kumar Rajagopalan, Vice President, Disys India. Disys India is established in the year 2012, though it's part of the global organization, which is over 25 years. The last 2 years during the COVID, in fact, we doubled our workforce globally. And in India, we tripled our workforce during the COVID time. And we also opened new offices within India. 3 new offices came in 3 new cities. And additionally, 2 new offices with the existing cities. So 5 offices were opened during this period. And almost like kind of tripled our workforce during this COVID period. So I would say thanks to the some of the initiatives from NASSCOM, learned a lot to kind of set it up better.
Thank you, Kumar. I think we'll get to know more about the secret sauce in terms of how you've been able to do, and especially when you're talking about a subject like this, right? Thank you, Kumar. Jayashree?
Yes. So hearty greetings to everyone on the World Heart Day. This is Jayashree Mohanty, co-founder and president of Luminous Infoways. We have around 1,000 workforce connected and all across the globe. So it is very, very wonderful to be interacting you on that. We have been also from Luminous being a product known as Right to Information Central Monitoring Mechanism, blood banking solutions. Now, these all require a lot of connectivity and a lot of exhaustive resource. So today, when we are talking about this hybrid model, I feel very happy because in my company, I have not faced not much of a problem regarding this at all. In fact, my human resource have been very beautifully able to move around from this pair to a very flexible workforce and yet maintain the productivity for me. I've been lucky, and I would like to share all of them with everybody together. And as you mentioned about diversity, equity, and inclusion, I would definitely like to highlight the role of that, how it can be very, very helpful to us.
Thank you so much, Jayashree. That will be really, really great to know about. That. Thank you. Tejinder, over to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tejinder Oberoi, Executive Director, Cygnet Infotech. We're based out of Ahmedabad, and we also experienced a kind of a scenario wherein we always used to be very proud of the fact that we are 100% work from office company pre-COVID. And we were very proudly telling our customers that we have a scenario wherein everybody works behind a firewall and all the security aspects are taken care of. I think 7 days into COVID lockdown and everything changed. Literally had to push machines to people's homes.
Yep.
I would say smuggle machines to people's homes because we did not have enough permits to do it, and there were customer responsibilities to be delivered. Yeah. So we went through that cycle, doubled our HR force at that time to ensure that we are able to manage the attrition and the hiring at the same time. Continuously grew over the last 2 years in business. That's an interesting factor. And came out alive, striving, kicking, and looking forward. The changes that happened during these 2 are some things that have happened as a definitive step. And the transformation is here to stay. So
Okay.
all of us will need to find out ways on how we survive, accept, and work with those changes rather than trying to resist those changes. So that's the line on which I would like to, Maulik, to start the.
Thank you so much. That you all three have put together it so well for us to get started this discussion. I'm sure between us, amongst us, a lot will really come out, which of course can be shared with our all participants, and I'm sure it'll be very helpful, very enriching as well. To start with, I mean, therefore, what you just said, Tejinder, is that how we have gone through about this. A lot of us, in fact, most of us actually considered work from home as an immediate alternative measure as we went into lockdown and COVID situation. More like crisis management, if I may say so. But as we are now looking more than crisis management, it is coming into a strategic management matter. Do you agree with this, friends? What are your thoughts?
I think it's becoming a way of living.
Okay.
So more than strategic, it is like we have to be accommodative. Management is more prevalent there. We need to accommodate people at the same time. They need to accommodate us,
Right.
even in their private time sometimes.
Right.
So,
And how it is kind of work for you, especially each of you, if you want to share how it is worked out for you, the work from home, especially that specific phase.
Yes, should I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, but you are very correct. I also feel it is a strategic management rather than a crisis management, actually. Why I'm saying strategic management is because you see, in the end, we are looking in our terms of what is the turnover we're going to add on each month and how we are going to make them productive. So for that, we really need to see how we utilize our workforce very well. Now we know because of this, we are having maximum workforce working from home. But then how do you make them work in the same systematic manner and the hours put together?
Correct.
Here, what we had done is that we had specified a very excellent work from home policy. In this, we have clearly laid down, because the clarity is the biggest thing.
Okay.
The work from home policy which you make, the clarity with which if each points, everything is mentioned for them, that makes the employee feel structured. And where even if they're working from home, they have a set of rule to play and processes to be adhering to while they do the work. So that is, you have to have a very clear-cut picture of a work from home policy, which was done even from as early as from March 2020 itself. The day the lockdown began, 19th of March 2020, we immediately gave them across.
Okay.
So they got it. And then each of the time, there would be some simultaneous triggers in that, which will be played around in the WhatsApp. So, every 4 hours, that trigger would go down to each of the employees' place, and this is what is supposed to be done. So the updates are happening, not happening. So, the feeling of connectedness for the employees was very important, which is what we could do better in our company very well.
Thank you. Thank you, Jayashree, for your thoughts. Kumar?
Yeah, so I kind of move it slightly differently. Earlier, it was a busy BCP. So we started in March. It was something called a BCP. We said like business continuity plan, how kind of we build it out and things like that. Slowly, it has become continuous planning for business. So the term business continuity changed to the continuous planning, because the reason is we thought like the work from home would stay for a shorter period, and then again the normalcy would start. But actually the behavior has changed for people, and some of the even the statutory level has changed. The licenses, they said like try us, given the free hand to kind of go about it in terms of work from home. And some of the behavioral things what we kind of saw a couple of years back before pre-COVID has completely changed. In fact, I remember a day before I opened the Bangalore office, and the next day I locked down the Bangalore office because of the COVID. So then again, you kind of think whether your investments of using the places is going to be fruitful or not. or are we making a bad decision of taking more offices? But it
Right.
happens to be you sign up during the COVID time much cheaper in terms of a workplace for locked in for 5 years, but at the same time, building the hybrid model slowly and slowly, where you kind of make the behavioral change for employees to work from home as well as work from office, same amount of productivity, how it can be brought out. So
Mhm.
that culture has slowly settled. It has become so effective over a couple of years. And I would say that the continuity in the planning, which every company has made it, built a additional layer of building the culture within that one, and
Okay.
inclusive of all the not only the employees but their family members, has
Right.
become one of the key area for success for most of the companies.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Kumar. Tejinder, any specific points you would like to share?
Yeah, see, there is a phase of transition. Lot of policy-driven things happened, but there was a cultural shift that happened in the process. So
Yes.
one, let's say, people moved back home into different centers. Let's say if we are based out of Ahmedabad and we had employees from Bhavnagar, Rajkot, Bihar, or whatever, they moved back home. And now if you want to call a meeting, these guys are not available because they're physically not in the location now.
Yeah.
So that is one change that we had to cope up with, and we had to manage our expectations accordingly. So
Correct.
that's one thing which very strategically happened. The second piece is when they moved back home, let's say, in terms of diversity, there were always situations wherein possibly one partner had to take a back seat for family reasons or whatever. So now a scenario emerged wherein we realized that many of these people have now, because there are both of them are at home, that those who were getting out of the job lines, and there was a good demand. So a lot of females also in this process joined back the industry.
Okay.
The conditions that we will have a compulsory work from home, men change their jobs, wanting to ensure that they have a permanent work from home kind of a condition laid changes also happened. So we had people coming over for interviews. They said, unless you promise a permanent work from home, we are not joining you.
Right.
And those kinds of things happened. So that transition in the society happened, wherein you had a situation wherein the family dynamics changed. So the responsibilities became shared between the husband and wife, and therefore the work conditions with the employer also changed.
Right.
On the challenge part, most of our homes are not designed for work. We have sleeping and eating spaces. We don't have workspaces in our homes. And that was a major challenge that all of us faced. So you have a scenario wherein people are working from home, they're on conference calls, and you do not have, and you as a employer, at the same time, your customer feels that how will a candidate give his best with so many disturbances around?
Mhm.
Definitely saw changes wherein people had to shift into bigger houses, chained houses, build private sections in their homes, and all those kinds of stuffs also happened. But
Mm.
it was also a social change which brought in acceptability of workspaces into homes.
Right.
So people have a workspace also at home. So all these transitions in the society also happened, which as employers we also experienced.
Yes.
Right.
So you had a scenario wherein some people were able to adapt to it better, and there were some people with whom you had productivity challenges because they were not able to adapt to it.
Right.
So those challenges were there. At the same time, there were no established practices of work from home or work from anywhere culture.
Mhm.
So you had a situation wherein like you had different challenges wherein people could not really classify when to work, when not to work. So initially when there was nothing and they could not go out, we saw actually improvement in productivity.
Right.
So I used to joke that the wives must be telling guys to get back to work, and they say, "नहीं नहीं मुझे काम है," so they would sit back on their laptops and start working to avoid doing homework. But finally it has settled down, and we saw a dip in the productivity also, and
Yeah.
we're trying to cope up with those changes.
Okay.
So that thing also happened. So
Right.
recently we had a customer who sponsored a working holiday. So we had a team which went to Udaipur and spent 2-3 days staying in a hotel and working from there also.
Okay.
So that kind of a hybrid situation is also coming. So
That's
these are some experiences that I want to share. I don't
Sure.
know what is right or wrong.
Yeah.
And but some of them have, each one of them has their own positive side of it, and some of them did not work also. So
Right.
just sharing some
Correct.
things that happened around.
No, this is fantastic, Tejinder. I think all as I hear from you and Jayashree and Kumar also earlier, I mean, changes have happened, and yet, I mean, we wish and we want that more people should show up at the offices to work. But we all know it's not that easy, and we are kind of seeing that some changes have happened or transformation has happened for long and possibly forever to stay for some time, maybe more. Which essentially means it is us who have to kind of now figure out sharing what ways possibly we can work it out better. What are the best ways of dealing with it? And therefore this experience sharing, as you rightly said, Tejinder, about what we just talked about. But if we are looking at from a long-term perspective, right? I mean, in terms of this is going to stay, it's not going to go away, which looks like, in which case we also should understand that what are the best ways of dealing with it, in which case, I mean, experiences, can we bring these experiences to now form together next practice or best practice, whatever we call, or at least what are the things that we should essentially look at in terms of how do we bring in those essential items to make it a good structured way of going forward to deal with, right? And I think that's where comes my next point or question, that I mean, if there were challenges, which we all know there were, not if, in which case, what are those areas possibly you felt challenges or we all felt challenges, and therefore operational as well as business both. And when I talk about business, at times even our customers may have expressed their opinion in terms of whether they want our people to come back to work or from office or not, and so on. And I know for a fact, in some cases, I have interacted with some friends and they've said that their SLAs have changed as a result of such models now. Right, their insurance policies have changed. It requires for them to take different types and different levels of insurance, because information security has become so very important, especially with hybrid model as well now. So what are these unique challenges each one of you would have really come across, if you can share, and then operational and business both, and then what have you done possibly to take care of this?
Yeah, so I can go first.
Yeah, Kumar.
Maulik. So I can probably broadly classify the challenges which we normally face in a hybrid work model under some of the C's, we say 6 C's. So one is definitely the communication, because the biggest challenge is like reaching out to employees and how they receive, because the communication is a two-way process. So how they receive, you don't have the understanding of the in-person comfort which provides. That's a major thing. Second is obviously building the culture within the organization, because it's a distributed employees, and you always have a problem of having reaching out to different segments with the different geographically distributed employees. Culture is one major issue which binds the organization. Third is, of course, the captains of the company, which I say building the next level leaders is very, very important. But unfortunately, what happened, we don't know whether the leaders per se are capable enough to handle such a workforce. And identifying such leaders also becoming a problem, because you don't know how they work in a distributed environment. The next is obviously the cost. Some other places where your fixed costs are locked, like as I said, the facilities costs are locked. Whether you like it or not, you will be spending that money. But additional cost which comes in, especially in the digital transformation. You need to put in a lot of the cost on the IT side of it to bind the employees. So the cost becomes at least like 4 to 6% more than what it was earlier. That puts the pressure on the margin. And the other key element is the capability building, because each employee now becomes independent, and they become independent and they work independently in their own style. So building the capability within the organization has become a problem. Of course, like these challenges can be mitigated to some extent in 3 ways. As I said, putting a lot of effort on their digital transformation so that you are well connected with the employees, even your communication reaches them pretty well. And building the leaders, the learning and development budgets definitely has to go up. Building the leaders or empathetic leaders is very important here, so that like they know how to kind of connect with the employees much easier. And the last one, of course, is like kind of the it's a overall employee engagement, which is important. In a sense, the employees need to get connected. You, instead of push, the pull has to be there, so they come back to you and they openly discuss about their challenges, be it their mental well-being or the physical challenges in the workplace, or even what they wanted to learn, skill building, everything. It has to come. So that is in a nutshell 3-centric approach which is required to kind of digital, human, and the leadership to build the overall of the hybrid model.
Great. Digital, human, and
employee-centric.
Employee-centric, right? So I think this is fantastic. Any further opinions, views? But before I move on, request to all my friends here who have joined us to kind of post their questions in Q&A section. And if you could do that, that'll be great. And we'll try and take up those questions towards the end of our discussion. Yes, furthermore views, friends.
Kumar summarized it very well. One, the costs of security, infrastructure, and the lot of investments that need to get into it definitely puts a significant pressure on the margins. Second, we went through a phase, through the COVID, we went through a phase of shortage of manpower also, which pushed costs higher up. And in that scenario, I think it also, because there was a shortage of manpower, so the other side of the opportunity, wherein let's say people working on multiple jobs, so the opportunity existed for them to do that because there was a shortage of manpower, and that also created a kind of a pressure on the cost as well as deliverables. Learning, because has taken a backseat, because learning from each other and learning within the office is different. Here a person is isolated at home, and the tact to learn alone, see, the need to go to school is not only to do book study. Similarly, the need to go to office is not only to do your work. So you co-learn and you come up earlier, which also hampered a lot of parallel processing. So a lot of managers were able to manage multiple projects together by giving one instruction here and the other instruction there. Now they have to sit through serial meetings half the time, and they have to listen to every small bit. So the meeting time reduced the productivity significantly. On that side also, we face this issue also. And they have to go through all the mails, because that one line statement from a project manager, from a line guy, or a one view on the screen, and he says, okay, you go do this way or that way, that stopped. He had to go through the complete line function, give a time slot, work on it. So the parallel processing got reduced to serial processing, and that slowed down quite a few things. Having said that, office spaces definitely is a challenge. We will possibly have to rebuild our office spaces from our earlier model of having everybody in the office and having line jobs to possibly collaborative spaces where people can come for collaboration and go back home to work. So that's another thing that's coming up very, very clearly. So there'll be pressure. Margin pressure is pushing the industry to a level wherein the frills or the ability to reinvest into technology and manpower will be under pressure at least for some time to come.
Right.
The kind of salary pushes that together as an industry fighting with each other for manpower that we have pushed up will put a pressure on reinvestment in infrastructure and will put up significant pressure on the margins. So an industry which used to enjoy a healthy 2-digit margin may show up balance sheets in single digit in the coming year, especially in the SME sector. So that pressure will also definitely come.
And yes.
Yes. Yes. So I think that Kumar and Tejinder has almost figured out all the points, the areas, the challenges thing. But from the challenges point of view, I have my 3 takes, which I would like to explain a little further, which I think Kumar also mentioned is the captain, that is the leadership of the people handle the teams. So in this situation we found that our people were not at all really, the leaders were not able to, initially, not able to at all, figure out how to manage their team and how to make them work perfectly well. What are the areas they would be looking in for? There will be so many issues and things being put up to them. Similarly, just building on to them was the capability thing, that is the lack of the teamwork. So even the team, since they were in their own spaces, and it was very easy for them to be confined to a singular space where they're sitting and talking, and basically they make up the gaps in the product. They make up the gaps for each other. But here is nobody to just give them early attitude and tell them way through the ways. So that definitely those lags and things happen. So lack of teamwork, and of course the control. Now, even you would ask for everything is all secure. He said it out to him and he's putting back on the server. I don't know. Secured is the whole thing up. These 3 aspects I found real deep for us to think about. These were really major challenges.
So I'm sorry, but Jayashree, we are not able to hear you very well. I think, is that just me or?
I can hear you. I can hear you pretty well. Is everybody else being able to hear me?
Yes,
so I was talking about. Yes, I was talking about this 3 challenges, which really it is hard. That is definitely the captain, the leadership, the capability, lack of teamwork, and of course the control, the lack of security. So all these 3 things. And another one aspect which we really thought was important that I must tell when we worked and we saw was the women. They said in the houses, although they were staying at home, so everybody, there would be small household chores to be taken care of. So anytime they would be called over. So they were getting distractions and they were not able to concentrate on work. So these were the challenges which we faced a lot during these areas which we found.
Right. So having discussed the challenges, any specific aspects that you have really done, which would have worked to, especially, I think we talked about communication culture, I think is the biggest one. Cost, of course, capability building, and especially leadership there, which is so very important to stay connected. And I think anchoring everyone is so very important. But what are the ways and means to really mitigate some of these or solve this? Any examples? Any practices that you can share?
So if I go ahead, Jayashree.
Yes, so I will just take one small here because you said any particular experience. So I'll tell you a very defined one. What we did was we built up something known as HR chit chats.
Okay.
So in the HR chit chat, what used to happen was immediately the HR would sit down with the leader and ask him to note down his flaws. Okay. Flaws in the sense of what is the problem areas he's facing, what kind of issues he's facing from his team, he would keep on denoting. And then HR would give him options, maybe this, maybe that, and also throw and find out the solution to this and give it to him. So that really worked in the sense this HR chits actually made the person realize to give himself an insight of what behavioral changes or what kind of platonic changes he need to do to feel connected to his team.
Okay.
This was one area we could make over with this HR chit chats.
Great.
Kumar, please.
Thank you, Jayashree. So it's not one or two kind of a solution, Maulik. So there are many things which can probably bring certain balances. Of
Sure.
course, some are involved in the cost. We need to be mindful of what we are spending. One is definitely I would put it on amenities. If at all, if you wanted to bring back people back to office, the earlier offices may not work out. So there are at least some interesting amenities which needs to be built. I'm not saying a very posh office. Give them the benefits which can bring them back to the office. So which includes like somebody who's working from office, build them a culture wherein like they get a certain amount of incentives and perks to kind of come back. It might be discriminative, but like sometimes you may need it to kind of bring them back. The other side of it is like definitely when I said the digital inclusion, I meant that like there are softwares which is required kind of on top of it to understand where each and every person is spending their time. Because most of the time what happens in the initial period, in fact, we also had certain softwares running in each of the laptops to understand how much of the time is spent on the meetings, how much of the time is spent on the productive hours and things like that. So the transparency here is very important, or employee communication is very important. If they feel these softwares are running in their system to track them whether they are working 8 hours, it's going to be a major negative impact on every employee. If these are data collections which are put into use for better usage, for example, in my experience, we at some point of time we in fact isolated certain employees and said like, you are spending more than 12 hours in a meeting, so this is not what you are expected to do. Go back and spend your time with the family. So these are giving a positive enforcement when you digitize certain things. So it's typically helpful because the employees then feel it, like why certain things are being monitored. The Of course, the last aspect of it is like when you build a culture wherein there is a remote work and there is a work from office. Not everybody needs to come to office. There are champions and experts who like to sit in their home, isolated, and they wanted to work. So you have a two streams of work which should be built in HR system. One, an independent contributor who should not be touched. His contribution is valuable to the company. And there is a team of people who wanted to grow in the organization, be a people-centric manager, be a leader, just like kind of guide rest of the people. So they should be asked to come back to work, because then you have a small section of people, 30 to 35%, you bring them back to work. Not everyone needs to come to the office, and then you need to kind of build that culture. So that way you are balancing a most productive employee in the space which they wanted it. And you are balancing the leaders to come back so that you build a culture of next sustainable level of operations, and the continuity is maintained. So that way is like kind of, again, coming back to the same arguments of like kind of the digital, putting it so digital so that like you have all the data points to kind of work with employees, and the leadership trainings, and also building the employee connects.
Correct. Very useful share, Kumar and Jayashree. I was going to ask this question. I think the way we saw how organizations and businesses are built, it's very specific, of course, to the unique culture that we have and we kind of create, right? And that with virtual organizations, I would say virtual organizations. How do you do that? I mean, how do you kind of build this culture, which I think is very important to kind of promote the best practices. But it's not just about that, but also about what holds us together as teams. For example, values, becoming more productive in nature, transparency, for example, and leading to higher levels of competency. How do you do this? I mean, building culture in such scenario.
And Maulik, you're talking of digital communities coming up now. So we already have seen these communities not from the work perspective, but we will need to have
Yes.
workspaces and work
So
communities
let me
coming up.
take out
Yeah.
a secret out for me.
Sure.
So see, I from this part we see the first one to make a e-club. So we had made a e-club, and we started from 2014 when we didn't even have much of stability of all the network connections here. E-club, and we connected 7 countries and 13 locations to that e-club. So I think that helped seeing that people you have to really encourage people to think that they can be equally good when they are online or whether they are offline. So first basic thing about the having being together and working together is that we need to look good to each other so that we can do things. When you talked about that this is going to be a different environment altogether, how would we ask the people to do it? I think the first and foremost to do it is to bring their things in a meeting or agenda. There has to be a
Lost station.
Yeah.
So what I was trying to say, Maulik, is let's take the example of this program that we are currently having here. So you and me both have worked together on different programs, and to have such a program, it had to be local. So today, 4 of us are sitting in 4 different locations of the globe and having a fruitful meeting with almost like 75 of us together on this panel. So, and if the purpose or the agenda is correct, something can be delivered. So possibly, I think this change has happened, and that organizing such a program would require a booking a hall, getting people together. People will come, people will not come, and all those kinds of questions. And if you propose that let us have a video conferencing meeting, like there was always a knick-knack to it, people would not come. But today, this has become a part of our lives. Each one of us, at professional levels, at personal levels, and at organization level, has accepted these meetings. What possibly needs to be done is to draw some objectivity, some relevance, and possibly a system wherein, let's say, like people will start rejecting also meetings if they don't see a good, if these meetings are, if they're just being invited to the meeting, which we have also seen. So possibly, I think effectivity and relevance in the subject has to improve drastically within the organizations and otherwise also to ensure that this is a sustainable model.
Right. I think very well said. And possibly if we tie this up with the overall purpose of why and what we are doing, I think that makes a big difference in my opinion. Purpose driven is a big need, which doesn't really go even if you are in physical form sitting somewhere in an office or if you are virtually joining from somewhere. It is, in my honest opinion, what brings us together is a purpose, right? And so far as we are having good purpose in front of us and clarity of that, to me, possibly that makes a big impact. But over to you, Jayashree. We lost you earlier for some time. If you want to complete your thought.
Yes, I was just saying connected to 7 countries and 13 locations, unique experience. Just like how Tejinder was mentioning, miles away we were away, but we were able to feel connected with a sense of purpose to building up a proper structure of agenda. And that is how we used to work. So this experiences by all of my leaders to their teams. This really helped. The sense of purpose helped. And secondly, not only the agenda has to be specific, but the whatever was the item inside it, that means each of the aspect, whether you are having a technical seminar or whether you are going in session, that has to be very, very clarified and clear. So those things in building a sense of purpose for work and productivity, which my teams were.
Great. So, once again, I'm sorry we lost you for some time, Jayashree.
Yes, I think there is some,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a lot that we can really talk and discuss, and soon we'll actually take up a few questions and queries, very interesting ones I see there in the chat box and in the Q&A section as well. One thing which I wanted to touch upon, has your recruitment strategy changed by any means to kind of better handle the situation? And if so, what? Retention and recruitment both.
Okay, so I can go for this one. So
Yes.
of course, like, so obviously the recruitment has changed a lot because a lot of diversity and inclusion has been included part of the recruitment. Earlier, we used to call people. I'm mostly talking about the SME segment here because this is
Sure.
more relevant here, because SME segment operates within a single city or a couple of cities, and they may not have the advantage of having offices all over different cities where you can call people to kind of come to office. So this is more relevant for the SMEs. So recruitment has changed a lot for the SMEs because now you don't need to call someone who is working from, for example, in Delhi to come to Chennai and work. You can definitely pick somebody from Delhi and make them work from Delhi itself. Earlier, there is a lot of issues bringing the talents from different parts of the world, especially like when the culture within the city is like kind of is not adaptive to the people from outside. But that has changed now because the organization now they can go distributed workforce wherever they are, they can work. So that helps the organization to build the capability one way. And the recruitment team also now are wide open to kind of reach those spots wherever it is. Sometimes like even you get a person from deep down the south, I would probably say in Tamil Nadu, a village called Ambasamudram. So which was earlier was not even aware of in the geography of India, but now it's available. And the second important factor here is for the recruitment. Now you have a clear vision in terms of when you recruit a person, you have whether you are choosing a leader or you are choosing a person who is an expert in the field and continue to be expert in that field, not involving too much into the leadership role kind of a thing. Earlier, you bring them everybody into office. At some point of time, you need to make them as a team lead or manager, or you have to have a hierarchy of designation which needs to be provided. Now you are completely different in terms of bringing that clarity in terms of what each person needs to do. I've seen people resisted becoming a manager, said like I would be independent contributor, but because they are in the organization being a senior, you force them to do something which is difficult to kind of maintain. In terms of the employee engagement, because the paucity of time, like I'm just switching to the employee engagement, I would say the appraisal system has changed considerably. Earlier, it was more in terms of what they have done in that past, in that quarter or a year. Now, what they have done and what they are going to do in the future, that determines a person's ability to rise up in the organization, and also building the OKR organization key results areas have become a mandate. That's the purpose which Tejinder was talking about. Bringing the employees within that OKR has become the norm right now, and it will continue to grow. That's where I look at it. The one last point, I think one of the questions were also asked, I will touch briefly on this one,
Sure.
whether you would bring people 3 days to office, 4 days to office. That's pretty difficult for an SME segment because typically you have a single location. Instead of sitting in that city and coming to office for 3 days, he would come 5 days. Rather, you are now choosing people based on their merits, and they are distributed wide open. Bringing them to office for 3 days or 4 days for large companies, it might work out. For SMEs, it would better be define the purpose and work with the employees so that like they can contribute much better, and you can also like kind of get the benefits. Earlier, it was difficult to get such people into
Right.
the employment.
That's very interesting. And I believe Jayashree, you touched earlier briefly, and Tejinder also mentioned that it's possibly in a way we're getting an opportunity to bring in our female colleagues back into mainstream and see how we can really leverage that that capability and those wonderful, capabilities that we can get on board. Does that help in any way, Jayashree, in terms of mitigating any challenges?
Yes, yes. You see, right now, there have been more female now have started to work. I mean, if you look at this eastern part of the India, you see more and more females there, even in the other areas like sales and other, they are much, much more. They have come in. So if there's a focus of, instead of having those conventional meeting, people have now started doing more of online sales. And in the online sales, we find that female employees to be extremely adequate, knowledgeous, and able to handle the customers pretty well, clarifying them on the clarity and building up positions effectively. So this is one area that is really growing very strongly. You see more female on the forefront. Of
Mhm.
course, there is definitely a noise now that everywhere we see more females coming in and doing very good work everywhere. But specifically in this segments like marketing and the sales and client engagement, everywhere you find more and more females now, and they're doing effectively well with online calls and online things as well. So this is one good, very good for female because they are developing more of a confidence. And I everywhere in each of the SME, there's a lot, like there is a lot of industry-based association here through which we get to interact with a lot of companies here. In all the companies now, I found that they have their tender managers as female, the sales managers as female, which is very, very interesting aspect, which we never used to see, say, 5 years back.
Yeah.
So this is one aspect I find definitely very positive.
Okay.
That they are coming more on the forefront. And the second part also that I find very nicely is that companies are now willing to recruit more females.
Okay.
More females. So this trend is also catching up very fast because whatever we say, if we look at the real scenario, the ratio, we'll find still only 14% are employed. Rest are sitting at home. So they are getting opportunities now to come back to the mainstream. This will be very important
That's a great
aspect of this
talent pool.
hybrid model, and also because of this post-COVID scenario.
So that's a great talent pool to tap, as we all are really looking at retaining, attracting good talent and capabilities. And of course, we all have challenges in terms of how do we retain, but at the same time, how do we create next set of fantastic talent pool for us to access? So I think that's a great possibility, in my opinion. Before we kind of go into Q&A, which we should now, because we are soon running out of time. We are already running out of time. I would like to have one thing from each of you that you can share as your mantras for handling this hybrid model in the best way possible way. From each of you, Kumar, you can start.
So of course, there is no secret sauce. It has to keep changing. We have to keep reinventing ourselves. We never thought like it would be something we would be up for what we are doing right now. But I would say is like kind of 100% it would work all the time is be empathetic to employees and ensure that like you hear them every now and then, because that would set the tone for the future. And the more there are two elements of it. One is the looking at the profitability of the company so that the sustainability becomes better, because in future cash is king. Definitely you need to have lots of cash to kind of invest on it, but at the same time be empathetic to the employees, so they should be treated on par with the shareholders, so that like the respect would be there, their contribution would be much higher. So it's a two-way kind of a thing. Engage in all respect.
Fantastic. I think that builds in the culture thing that we were talking about, right?
That's right.
Great.
That's right.
Tejinder?
I think employers need to be more agile. They need to be flexible and they need to adapt to the changes. If we stick on to what we want, let's say, if all of us expect that people will come back to office, it is not going to happen. And so we need to accept that. We need to be flexible to ensure how the work can go on smoothly. We've also brought in a kind of wherever we have some strength of people in different locations, we are now taking up smaller office spaces in some business centers,
Yeah.
so that they can, let's say, even if there are 20 people in a particular location, we're taking up space for 8 or 10 people, so that once in a while they can have the office experience, they can go to office, collaborate, meet,
Yeah.
and do all those things.
Yeah.
But assuming that people will come back is not going to happen.
Correct. That's
So, so we need to be more agile, more flexible, and more adaptable. We have to find out between our businesses how we can ensure productivity is high, use tools as much as possible, but with a human touch.
great.
So we're still going to work with people, and people are our biggest resources.
Yeah.
So if you look at a balance sheet in terms of IT, people are on asset side, people are on liability side, people are on raw material side, people are on finished goods side. So, so if you look at a kind of that environment,
Very,
so
very
please,
interesting. Very interesting
please give
perspective.
them a lot of care.
Very interesting perspective. Over to you, Jayashree.
Yes, my take is that it is the survival of the fittest. So the constant reminders to the team that we have to be futuristic and stay competitive is very, very important. And the way how you express it to be, how motivational you can be and make them feel good about being associated with your organization would always work, be it online or offline.
Right.
And the best aspect about which I think about when I talk to them is that you have to be very futuristic and with the trends that always give them a glitch. You see, when we hold a iPhone of the latest model, how we feel extremely energetic and happy. It's just like that. So if they think that they are with a company which cares for them, which takes care of them and also tells them the latest and always make them feel special, they would definitely stay with you and will try to work with you with the vision that you have kept for the company. So this is my take, I feel personally. And of course, one more thing is that because the female has been now coming in and they're doing such good work, and I feel that they should be given more and more opportunities now, and they're extremely sincere, hardworking, multitasking people, so they will be able to really make a difference to the organization. So whatever the pages that we usually write, that we have 30% of the workforce strength as females, so let that be a reality for each of the organization. Let them bring down the diversity to them and enjoy the hybrid times that we are going to be in.
Fantastic.
And we'll become more like the little kids who, if you see now, are connected on one side and they study together.
Right.
And if we can study together, definitely we as adults can work very excellently well together.
Fantastic. Very well said. Very well said. I think all put together, I get this sense and very clear understanding. It's about people-centric approach that we need to be taking and be more flexible and agile. And of course, I see a lot of questions here, by the way, and I'll pick up the first one, which possibly is one of the most favorite subject out here, maybe. And the one question is, friends, I will start reading out these questions, and just one of you can actually then answer this. How do you identify employees moonlighting? Any techniques, any ways to do so?
There is one.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you when in the meetings you find somebody distracted, and second point, looked overworked or looked sleepy, that is one of the way of identifying.
Okay.
That there can be a possible some other extra work he's been doing.
Okay, thank you. Jayashree. Kumar, you were saying something?
No, I said post-employment, definitely we can identify. Of course, like people can become a contractor and hide that one, but the post-employment, like whether the PF or 26 years or the tax filing and things like that. So those gives the indications whether somebody is dual employed. But at the end of the day, is like kind of I put it this way. So even the employers now allow employees to be having a dual employment when they take it as a contract instead of an employment.
Yeah.
For a SME segment, I would probably say sometimes as an employer, we think that like people should not moonlight, but at the same time, we also encourage people to moonlight because we need that expertise, which otherwise would not be available. So it is, I would probably take the circumstances, whether it is required, and then go after it. If you really wanted to find out somebody is moonlighting and which is affecting the organization, and that way is like kind of you want to take steps out of it. But rather just killing it altogether is not going to work in a hybrid model, and we need to kind of accept the fact there would be some amount of moonlighting which is going to happen everywhere.
Well, thank you, Kumar, for sharing your thoughts there. And that also answers a couple of more questions which I'm seeing there. And someone has asked this question. Srinivas is asking this: what is your guess on how long this will continue in terms of work from home or hybrid, and when do you think people can go completely back to work from office? I think we heard that already.
I think we all of us answered this.
Yeah,
it is never going to happen again.
It's no, but I would say there are a few people say that like they lose contracts, but I as I said in the initial remark, like we have in fact expanded our team 3 times more than during the COVID period because of the hybrid model. I can possibly say this: the business is going to expand much more because of the hybrid model, because the talents are available now plenty. Earlier we were not able to tap, and now it's because of that. I think we would be in a better position if we adopt to that hybrid model and start building it. So you will get definitely good amount of business lined up, because it's about how your organization is going to retain the talents. That's the key.
right.
And Maulik, if you look at even the US working pattern, at least a significant part of our colleagues in US don't really go to office, they work from home. And the same adoption has come here. We definitely had issues of, let's say, commitment to work, but then the situation has ensured that we also follow the same model.
Right.
Many large companies closed down their offices over last 2 decades in US and pushed all their employees home. Many of them have never seen their offices.
Correct. So this is very interesting, and I think and there are a few other questions on this aspect, but I think we have possibly answered those in one or the other way. And I'll pick up some other questions. One is asked by our very dear friend and one of the council members, Avinash Sethi, is saying, thank you for discussing on a pertinent topic. One of the key reasons why employers want teams to come back to office is to allow for bonding among themselves, so that a lot of pent-up unspoken issues gets addressed automatically. How do we set that up under hybrid workspace?
I would like to say that while a lot of networking happens, why does an employer need to set up everything? It is not necessary that as an employer you need to set up processes and systems for all kind of went out and burnout. People collaborate officially, people collaborate unofficially, people are on chats, people are on discussions, they are on networks also. Any formal collaborative platform, they would not like to come and talk or brickbat. On formal channels, everybody is goody-goody to each other. So allow some informal channels to handle that kind of a thing. It is not necessary to come to office for that. Yes, the office coffee shop and the office lunchroom definitely helps. But if it is not there, it is not there.
Yes.
Go ahead. Sorry, Jayashree.
Yeah, my take is that, like I was telling you, the HRs and the leaders need to play a very special role here. Because we want our employees to come because they had that, personal bondings, and they talk to any issues, and they were, connected to each other. So that could also still happen in the hybrid model, provided they have, the options of having, the connected chats with them. So those in connect one-to-one chat also, the same thing can be experienced. It will take just a matter of time for them to be used to the practice, and then they adapt to it.
So, Jayashree,
we can still build on that feeling.
one of our participant asked that question: is that scalable? Is that model scalable? The one-to-one chit chat.
This one-to-one, yeah, see, we are here talking about the leaders. So each of the leaders is handling 8 to 16 people. So these leaders, again, these 8 to 16 people, they are having their smaller teams of, 2 to 5 and all. So this basically is a cascading effect. You train the master, you train the leaders on the top, and they basically go on gradually passing on these practices to the next level. So in fact, you are actually gripping up the whole people in a very, structured manner. So it is scalable. It is scalable.
Great. And then what infrastructure would you suggest to build and manage remote working and still manage to have office type of working environment? If there is any suggestion on that side. I mean, it is
the IT guys can surely give an answer to this, but it has cost attached.
Sorry to come in, my friend. However, the referencing here is to information security, confidentiality, and productivity monitoring. So from that aspect,
use VPNs or similar networks, and there are enough tools for information security. I think you need a separate session for this.
Okay.
So
and get the right kind of experts to talk on.
Yeah, I think Maulik, this is a very big topic, but I can possibly put it only one thing here. So of course, Office 365 cloud things and software productivity softwares like ProHands. There are many things which are out there to kind of track what we are doing, whether there is a leakage of any of the data which is being there. Most importantly here is at any point of time, we should keep educating the employees here that the company is not monitoring you, but at the same time, company would like to know how much of information leakage which is happening, because that has a liability on the company.
Right.
So the messages should be pretty clear. Our infrastructure is built typically to protect our customer assets and the company assets.
Right.
It's not for the employee who's supposed to kind of enjoy the free ride on everything. So it is in a way good for the employees, future employees, because once the organization is strong, it is like a boundary which you are building it. The cost of it is like you need to kind of figure it out, what kind of what levels which you want to. You can put a 5-layer or a 3-layer or 2-layer, but the crux is like whether you protect all the assets of your customers and the company. And also you are not missing out anything here as a message which is going to the employees that like you are being monitored for all these activities. So that is to the level at which I will go for it. And that depends on the levels at which the company is engaged with the employee, the customers.
Fantastic.
It's actually like passing a statement that wearing a helmet is for your good, not for the traffic challan. Or wearing a seatbelt will save you, not the car. so it's actually like that, and it's very important that I think Kumar has spoken a very, very relevant subject, that the employee needs to feel comfortable with all the weaponry around him, and he needs to be friends with it. He should not feel that the weaponry is being pointed at him.
Yeah.
But it is to safeguard him.
That's very interesting.
Yes, but here there's also another one perspective, which I think all of the panel would agree with. You see, we just cannot think on one aspect of people over here with the Indian mindset. Go on for thinking in a different perspective. They have to become more professional. See, in the hybrid model, the professional of highest, that means we have to really adhere to our profession. If you're putting in our 8 hours, employees able to put it his 8 hours clocking properly and do his work. And you see, companies thrive on the projections they have, the bandwidth that they make, the customers that they make. The customers are of utmost importance and they have to be protected. So these two aspects are very, very important for the hybrid model. So if any information has been shared to any of the employees, am I audible? Yeah.
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah.
Yeah, any of this information is being shared, that has to be very particularly defined.
Okay.
About information security, we also talked about the type of thing in which they are doing the work.
Right.
To be very moderated upon. that's what I told you. We have to create a new genre of watchover people, be it HR, be it project leaders, be it the team leaders. There has to be a real genre of team leaders who'd be watchful for them. So there has to be more eyes when we are.
Okay, I think we have
I think we lost her.
we lost Jayashree again. But this is a very interesting question. One last one. That do you think is 2 days a week or 3 days a week from office works? What is the best? What is the best model here when we call hybrid? What is it?
If we had an answer from a rule book,
Yeah.
I think there are countries which are saying that we'll only have a 4-day work culture.
Yeah.
And so possibly, like, why do you want him in office? Like, if your productivity requires, you can definitely expect a person to be there. But why do you want somebody in office for a kind of a specific 2 days or 3 days, and how does it help? These questions need to be answered within the organization framework and then possibly discussed with employees. If your business purpose requires him to be in office, why not 7 days? But just to ensure that you want to herd everybody together for a specific reason,
Correct.
or for a disciplinary reason, will not help. So the discipline, like, you cannot have a discipline. No, you have to come to office 2 days a week. If you have a purpose, I think the employee will also follow the purpose, and that suitability will come. But
Correct.
rule book working, I think it's difficult.
Right.
That's my
yeah.
take on it.
No, that's very well understood. I think it's important to understand what the business needs are, what the client needs are, and therefore the function requires to be. Accordingly, one has to really decide, and then of course put together how it is going to work out for the specific employee as well at the same time, and see how we can motivate them to kind of bring him or her to the office with a purpose, with a reason, I think, which will then be more understood and will be more relevant to even put that across to the employee. But you cannot have possibly a standard thing which can fit. I see what you're saying, Tejinder. Great. So friends, we had a wonderful session, and I think this can continue for another hour at least, with so much in so many insights, so much to share by each and every one of us. Very helpful, very useful. I'm sure all our participants also found it so useful and helpful as well. There were very interesting questions, and we tried to kind of answer most of those. And if there are any further questions that you may have, you can of course kind of send it to Saurav at NASSCOM, and we can certainly try and come back with the answers or with at least our views on those. Right. So thank you so much, friends. Jayashree, Kumar, and Tejinder for being with us today and joining us for this very interesting and very useful, very important discussion that we had today. Very valuable indeed. Thank you so much. Saurav, to you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Maulik sir, and thank you everyone who joined us from the other side of the on the platform, who listened to the conversation, and we feel that this is it's a very pertinent topic, and it can be debated and discussed much more going forward. We will look at various avenues where we can share the experiences across the regions, and also put some case studies on how the SMEs are mitigating the challenges or overcoming some of the challenges by putting up a human-centric approach to attack all those challenges. So thank you again, and special thanks to all the panelists, Kumar sir, Tejinder sir, and Jayashree ma'am for taking time out for this session and sharing your thoughts, insight, and experiences. And last but not the least, we have recorded this session. The video link will be available soon on our YouTube channel, that is NASSCOM SME Connect, and you can refer to these recordings going forward from the next week onwards. Thank you again, and we wish everyone a fabulous Navaratra, and stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kumar. Have a wonderful day. And good
Thank
evening,
you.
Tejinder and Jayashree. And
Thank you to everyone. I
Thank
wish
you,
each
Kumar.
one a
It
very
was
productive
wonderful.
company.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Kumar. It was really wonderful connecting with you and listening to your views. Thank you, Jayashree.
Definitely.
You were also wonderful.
Definitely.
thank
We'll
you.
stay
Maulik bhai,
connected.
Maulik bhai, as usual.
Thank you, Kumar and Tejinder, especially Kumar for coming in at 3:30 a.m. Great to
That's a
be
commitment,
connected
right?
to all of you.
Great commitment, Kumar.
Kumar mentioned that he's an early riser.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, friends.